with your experience in publishing over the years,
Yes.
I just asked Malcolm this question. What's the picture they get on the floor of the conference today? We heard, people say, "Oh, it's too hard, it's too complicated," and they're just ordinary parish people out there, volunteers a lot of the time. What's your feeling as to how much compliance there is with the law? Not necessarily saying people are trying to be dishonest.
No.
Yeah.
Look, I'd have to preface my response by saying I think people genuinely want to do the right thing. I think they actually don't know the whole implications of them not reporting. So they don't know the human story. They don't know that there's composers at the end here that are not getting paid for their property. Yeah. And I think that it's very quick these days to pop something on a photocopier, to make umpteen copies and not give it a second thought because our lives are busy. I would say from our experience of going around to workshops, to conducting workshops in schools and parishes, that I think it's fairly high, the non-compliance. And they sort of shyly admit that, "Oh, yeah, look, I'm sorry, we didn't copy this," or "Oh, don't look at my folder," or... So I think it's actually quite widespread.
But one of the other problems with this area of the law, it seems you come across other people who turn themselves into moral knots, of not complying.
Yeah.
And we saw it in some of the questions the other day that, the fine detail as to whether you add one note or if you add 6 to a piece of music.
Look, it's like life. It's about balance.
Yeah.
I think if you wouldn't go into, a department store, and if you're an honest person, you wouldn't go into a department store and buy a suit and take it home and wear it for a couple of weeks and bring it back. It's stealing. It's using property that's not yours. If you think of copyright in terms of this belongs to someone, they have gifted the church with this, then there's a justice issue of payment involved. But I think for those people that are really pedantic about it, I would never criticise someone for being pedantic about copyright, but I think it's balance. It really is.
Is it getting more complicated? Like you mentioned the photocopier a lot. Well, 20 years ago we didn't have photocopiers, and if you wanted to copy a piece of music, you had to laboriously do it by hand.
And a lot of the licenses that are in existence today, I mean, they sit on the back of that. They sit on the back of, Roneoing sheets and Spirit Masters or whatever. I can't remember them, but those sorts of formats they were quite high end to actually make a copy of something. Whereas now it is just so convenient. Yeah. So I think that just now of course we've got digital downloads
in terms of digital downloads.
Totally. It's like a freight train that's now out of control, and even the publishers are struggling to actually catch up with the technology. 3 years ago we didn't have Facebook. 3 years ago we didn't have Twitter. I mean, that to my 19-year-old daughter, that's like, what? I lived without that. It's sort of like, it's sort of out of control. So for those of us that are producing music, it's just, it really is a catch-up sort of situation. And so, I don't think anyone is going to come after anyone with a big stick, but it does require an enormous amount of education.